sinners were calling for the destruction of her home, not fairies, or shapeshifters, or pishogue, one of the many Irish words that referred to the supernatural. Such tales belonged in the pages of a book. Ellen groaned at the thought of the professor's book. Dylan Kelly. He was also behind this, riling everyone up with the promise of wild tales. Enough! She didn't want to think about them any more. Ellen Delaney dove into the tent and rifled through her bag for her bottle of Powers whiskey. This nonsense would end tonight. She had made a bet. In her quieter moments, she called it a deal with the devil. But she would see to it that the terms were honoured. As she sipped on the whiskey and looked out over the soft green hills, kissed by the lingering sun, the conversation played in her mind, like background music. If you're so sure fairies don't exist, spend the night near the fairy ring. I will so. Sundown to sunrise, not a bother. Alone? If I do, what's in it for me? They opened the calendar to study the cycles of the moon. The 21st of June, the summer solstice. Ellen's daughter was leaving for a conference in Dublin just at the right time. Ellen had no intention of forcing Jane to camp overnight with her. She wasn't built for it. Legally blind, her daughter startled easily. With Jane gone, it was the perfect weekend to do it. She said as much. And the next thing she knew, the date was set. Friday evening. Sundown. An official agreement between villagers. The contract had been drawn up, witnessed, notarized, and signed. Streaks of red and orange in the sky promised a remarkable sunset, and soon a full, honey-coloured moon would send sweet light shining down on her. Ellen continued to gaze out over the meadow as she sipped her whiskey. 64 years of age, and she never failed to be awestruck by the landscape. One didn't have to profess a belief in fairies to cherish the trees, and the rolling green hills, and the cragged rocks. Preserve away. Just don't get carried away. Stories had their place, and their place was on the lips of Shankiha, professional storytellers, enthralling folks gathered around a roaring turf fire. Yes, she respected storytellers. With the exception of Eddie Doolan, don't get her started, who could be seen spouting off everywhere she looked, draped in theatrical garb and stuttering around pretty women. He was giving professional storytellers a bad name, had no right to call himself a Shanachie. Speaking of fools, in the distance, a clump of colour soon turned out to be her fellow art students, hiding behind their easels. Annabelle's evening painting class. She'd forgotten all about it. Was Mary Madigan among them? Annabelle's prize student? They would capture the setting sun and the full moon and then be gone. She prayed her tent would go unnoticed, relieved that the brown material blended in with the night, and no one would think to look for it. She thought of making a fire, but didn't want to draw any unnecessary attention to herself. When the sun finally dipped below the horizon, the art students packed up and disappeared. The moon did not disappoint. A fat orb pulsing with life. So palpable was its glow, Ellen could almost feel a magnetic pull, igniting the first prickle of fear. Nonsense. She crawled into the tent, lest her imagination get the best of her. Moments later, she opened the flap and peered out at the hawthorn tree. She had to admit, against the amber sky, the gnarled branches were ethereal and downright witchy. She took a last gulp of whiskey, noting with some shock the dent she'd